The stars had always called to Park Do-hyun. Ever since he was a small boy growing up in Busan, he would sit on the roof of his family's apartment building and stare at the night sky. He dreamed of touching those distant lights, of walking on worlds no human had ever seen. Now, at 32 years old, he had finally made that dream come true. He was part of Earth's first deep space exploration mission, traveling farther from home than any human in history. The ship was called the Horizon. It carried a crew of 12 scientists and astronauts, each one the best in their field. Do-hyun was the xenobiologist, trained to study alien life forms if they ever found any. For 3 years, they had traveled through the empty darkness of space, finding only rocks and ice and silence. Many people back on Earth had started to believe that humanity was alone in the universe. They were wrong. Do-hyun was alone in a small shuttle, collecting samples from a strange green moon, when his sensors went crazy. Something massive was approaching. At first, he thought it was an asteroid. Then the thing blocked out the stars. And he realized it was a ship. It was bigger than anything humans had ever built. It was bigger than some cities. He tried to run. His shuttle's engines screamed as he pushed them to their limit. But the alien ship was too fast. A beam of blue light wrapped around his shuttle and pulled him in like a fish on a hook. The last thing he saw before the darkness swallowed him was the horizon, growing smaller and smaller in the distance, unable to help him. When Do-hyun woke up, he was lying on a cold metal floor. His head hurt. His body ached. Strange sounds filled the air, clicks and hums that his brain could not understand. He opened his eyes and saw creatures standing over him. They were tall and thin, with skin that shimmered like oil on water. They had 4 arms, each in wings folded against their backs. Their faces were almost human, with 2 eyes and a mouth. But their eyes were too large and too dark, like pools of black water. They looked at him the way a person might look at an insect. Soldiers grabbed his arms and dragged him through endless corridors. The ship was like a palace inside, with high ceilings and walls covered in strange art. Other creatures watched him pass. Some looked curious. Most looked disgusted. He was an animal to them, something dirty that had crawled in from the wild. They brought him to a massive room filled with light. At the far end sat a throne made of crystal, and on that throne sat the most beautiful and terrifying creature Do-hyun had ever seen. She was clearly their leader. Her wings were twice as large as the others, spreading out behind her like a cape of living jewels. Her skin shifted through colors as she moved, from deep purple to bright silver. A crown of metal and gems sat upon her head. She looked down at Do-hyun with eyes that held no warmth, no mercy, no interest. He was nothing to her, less than nothing. A voice spoke in his mind. It was not his own voice, and it hurt, like ice pressing against his brain. I am Queen Nara of the Valori Empire. You are human. Your kind is known to us. Primitive, weak, barely intelligent. Why have you come to our space? Do-hyun tried to speak, but his throat was dry with fear. He forced the words out anyway. We are explorers. We mean no harm. We only wanted to learn. The Queen's expression did not change. You have learned. You have learned that the universe does not belong to you. It belongs to us. She waved one of her 4 hands, dismissing him like a piece of trash. He is not worth killing. Put him to work in the nursery. Let him clean cages until he dies. That is fitting for his kind. The soldiers dragged him away. Do-hyun did not fight. There was no point. He was alone, trapped on an alien ship, millions of miles from home. No one was coming to save him. His crew probably thought he was dead. Maybe it would have been better if he was. The nursery was deep in the heart of the ship. It was a massive space filled with plants from 100 worlds and cages holding strange creatures. Young Valori children played on the floor, watched over by servants from other conquered species. These servants wore metal collars around their necks. When Do-hyun arrived, a collar was locked around his neck too. "Welcome to the bottom," said a creature beside him. It had gray skin and 6 eyes, and it spoke with a voice full of tired sadness. Do-hyun said nothing. He took the tools they gave him and started cleaning. The work was hard and dirty. The other servants ignored him. The Valori children threw things at him and laughed. He was a toy to them, an ugly animal for their entertainment. Days passed. Then, weeks. Do-hyun learned the Valori language slowly, listening and memorizing. He learned their customs, their rules, their cruelty. The Valori believed they were the greatest species in the universe. All others existed to serve them. This was the natural order of things. To question it was to die. He thought about escape every day. But there was nowhere to go. The ship was vast, and he did not know how to fly it. Even if he could steal a shuttle, he had no idea where Earth was. He was trapped, and he knew it. One evening, as Do-hyun cleaned a cage in the corner of the nursery, he felt someone watching him. He turned and saw a small Valori child standing a few feet away. She was young, maybe 5 or 6 in human years. Her wings were still small, barely developed. Her eyes were the color of honey, and they watched him with open curiosity instead of disgust. "What are you?" she asked. Her voice was high and clear. "I am human," Do-hyun said quietly. "You look strange," she said. "Why is your skin so soft? Why are your eyes so small? Why do you only have 2 arms?" Before he could answer, a servant rushed over and pulled the child away. "Princess Yuna, you must not speak to the animals. Your mother would be angry. Revera would have the first." The child, Princess Yuna, looked back at Do-hyun as she was led away. Her eyes were still curious, still interested. She did not look at him like he was an animal. She looked at him like he was a mystery she wanted to solve. That night, lying on his hard bed in the servants' quarters, Do-hyun thought about those honey-colored eyes. It was the first time anyone on this ship had looked at him like he was a person. He did not know it yet. But that small moment would change everything. The days in the nursery were all the same. Do-hyun woke before sunrise, ate a small meal of tasteless food, and worked until his body screamed for rest. He cleaned cages, fed animals, carried heavy containers, and did whatever the Valori masters told him to do. He kept his head down and his mouth shut, just like the other servants had taught him. Survival was the only goal now. But Princess Yuna did not understand the rules. She appeared again 3 days after their first meeting. Do-hyun was on his knees, scrubbing the floor near the entrance, when a small shadow fell over him. He looked up and saw her standing there, her honey-colored eyes bright with excitement. "Human," she said. Do-hyun glanced around nervously. Other servants were watching with fear in their eyes. They knew what happened to slaves who got too close to royalty. But the princess did not seem to care about any of that. She sat down on the floor right in front of him, folding her small wings against her back. "Why do you walk on 2 legs? Does it not hurt? Why do you not have wings? How do you get anywhere fast?" Do-hyun did not know what to do. If he ignored her, she might get angry and have him punished. If he talked to her, her mother might find out and have him killed. Either way, he was in danger. "Princess," he said carefully, "I am just a servant. I am not allowed to speak to you." "I am the princess," Yuna said firmly. "I decide who is allowed to speak to me, and I want you to speak to me. So speak." There was something in her voice that reminded him of her mother. That same absolute confidence, that same certainty that the universe would bend to her will. But in the child, it was innocent somehow. She was not cruel. She was simply curious. So Do-hyun spoke. He told her about walking on 2 legs, how humans had evolved on a world with wide-open plains where running was more important than flying. He told her that humans could not fly, but they had built machines that could take them to the stars. She listened, with her mouth open in wonder. You built machines to fly? But you are so small and weak. How is that possible? We worked together, Do-hyun said. Millions of humans, all sharing their ideas, all building on what came before. One human alone cannot do much. But all of us together? We can do anything. 2022. That's about all, Sue. Yuna thought about this for a long moment. Then she smiled, showing small, sharp teeth. I like that idea. I want to know more. You will tell me more tomorrow. It was not a request. It was a command. And somehow, despite everything, Do-hyun found himself looking forward to it. The next day, she came back. And the day after that. And the day after that. Soon, her visits became a regular part of Do-hyun's life. She would find him wherever he was working and sit beside him, asking endless questions about humans and Earth and everything in between. He told her about the oceans, vast bodies of water so large that you could not see the other side. She could not believe it. Water on Valori worlds was precious and rare. The idea of a whole planet covered in it seemed like magic to her. He told her about mountains, towers of rock that reached into the clouds. He told her about snow, frozen water that fell from the sky like white flowers. He told her about animals, millions of different species sharing one small world. She loved hearing about dogs most of all. They live with you? In your homes? And they love you? Yes, Do-hyun said, smiling at the memory. They are our friends, our family. Doos 9, Doos 99, Doos 99, Doos 999. I want a dog, Yuna declared. When I am queen, I will get a dog from Earth. When you are queen, you can do anything you want. She looked at him with serious eyes. When I am queen, you will not be a servant anymore. I will make you something important. You are too interesting to clean floors. Do-hyun did not believe her. Children made promises they could not keep. By the time she was old enough to be queen, he would probably be dead. But he appreciated the thought. It was kind. And kindness was rare on this ship. The other servants warned him that he was being foolish. The princess is a child, said the gray-skinned creature named Boru. Today, she loves you. Tomorrow, she will forget you. And if the queen finds out about these conversations, you will not live to see another sunrise. Do-hyun knew Boru was right. But he could not bring himself to push Yuna away. She was the only light in his dark world. When she smiled at him, when she laughed at his stories, when she tried to say Korean words in her strange clicking accent, he felt almost human again. He felt like more than a slave. He taught her simple words. Hello. Goodbye. Friend. She taught him Valori words in return. Sky. Star. Beautiful. They created their own secret language, mixing human and Valori sounds into something new. Something that belonged only to them. One day, after he had been on the ship for 2 months, Yuna brought him something. It was a small piece of fruit, purple and sweet-smelling. Food from the royal table. For you, she said proudly. Because you are my friend. Do-hyun stared at the fruit. He had not eaten anything but gray paste since his capture. His stomach ached with hunger. But he hesitated. Princess, I cannot take this. If someone sees, no one will see. I was very sneaky. She pushed the fruit into his hands. Eat. You are too thin. Humans should not be so thin. He ate the fruit. It was the most delicious thing he had ever tasted. Juice ran down his chin, and tears ran down his cheeks, and he did not know if he was crying from happiness or sadness or both. Yuna watched him with a strange expression. Then she reached out and touched his face, wiping away a tear with her small finger. Why do your eyes leak water? She asked. It is called crying. Humans do it when they feel strong emotions, when they are very sad or very happy, or sometimes both. at the same time. Which is it now? Do-hyun thought about the question. He was a prisoner, far from home, with no hope of rescue. He should be miserable, but right now, sitting with this strange little alien princess who had given him fruit and called him friend, he did not feel miserable at all. Both, he said finally. I think it is both. Yuna nodded as if this made perfect sense. I think I understand. I feel that way sometimes too. When I miss my father, he died when I was very small. Mother does not talk about him. I am sorry. Do not be sorry. He is with the stars now. That is what the priests say. She looked up at the ceiling, where painted stars glowed in the artificial light. Sometimes I wonder if he can see me. If he is proud of me. I am sure he is, Do-hyun said softly. How could he not be? Yuna smiled at him then, a real smile, warm and bright. And in that moment, Do-hyun made a decision. He would survive this. Not just for himself, but for her. This lonely little princess who had no father and a mother made of ice. She needed a friend, and somehow, against all odds, she had chosen him. He would not let her down. 3 months had passed since Do-hyun's capture. He had learned to survive in the nursery, to keep his head down while still finding small moments of joy with Princess Yuna. He had started to believe that maybe, just maybe, he could live like this for years. He could endure. Then the sickness came. It started with one child. A young Valori noble, barely older than Yuna. He developed a fever that would not break. Purple spots appeared on his skin. He stopped eating, stopped playing, stopped responding to anyone. Within 2 days, he was fighting for his life. The royal physicians rushed to help him. They used every medicine they knew, every treatment their advanced science could offer. Nothing worked. The fever burned hotter. The spots spread. And then, worst of all, other children started showing the same symptoms. By the end of the week, 12 Valori children were sick. 5 were close to death. The nursery was locked down. No one was allowed in or out. Fear spread through the ship like wildfire. The Valori might rule the galaxy, but they had no defense against this invisible enemy. Do-hyun watched from his corner of the nursery, helpless and terrified. The servants were kept far from the sick children, but he could see them from a distance. He could see their small bodies shaking, their parents crying, their physicians arguing. And he could see Yuna, standing alone by a window, her face pale with worry. Do-hyun Appa. She had started calling him that recently, a Korean term of affection for an older brother. It made his heart hurt every time he heard it. Do-hyun Appa. Am I going to get sick too? He wanted to tell her no. He wanted to promise her that everything would be fine, but he could not lie to her. Not to Yuna. I do not know, he said honestly. But I hope not. I hope very much. 2 days later, his hope died. Yuna woke up with a fever. By midday, the purple spots had appeared on her arms. By evening, she could barely stand. Servants carried her to a bed in the medical section, and Do-hyun was forced to watch from behind a barrier as physicians surrounded her. He could not breathe. He could not think. All he could see was Yuna, so small and fragile, disappearing under a mountain of tubes and machines. All he could hear was her voice, weak and scared, calling his name. Do-hyun Appa, where are you? I want Do-hyun Appa. Something inside him broke. He did not care about rules anymore. He did not care about punishment or death or anything else. He pushed past the barriers and ran to her bed, ignoring the shocked cries of the physicians. I am here, he said, taking her small hand in his. I am right here. I will not leave you. The physicians tried to pull him away, but Yuna held onto his hand with surprising strength. No, she whispered. He stays. He has to stay. No one knew what to do. A slave had touched the princess. He should be executed immediately. But the princess needed him. and the queen had not given any orders, so they let him stay. Watching nervously as this strange human sat beside the dying child, Do-hyun held Yuna's hand through the night. He told her stories about Earth, about his family, about the dog he had as a boy. He sang Korean lullabies in a soft voice. He did everything he could to keep her calm, to keep her fighting, but the fever kept rising, and her grip on his hand kept weakening. By morning, he knew she was running out of time. They all were. 3 more children had died during the night. The physicians had given up. They were just waiting now. But Do-hyun was not ready to give up. He studied the sick children carefully, using his training as a xenobiologist. He noticed things the Valori physicians had missed. The purple spots were not random. They formed patterns, clusters that followed the lines of the children's nervous systems. The fever was not just heat. It came in waves, rising and falling with a regular rhythm. "This is not a natural disease," he said suddenly. The physicians looked at him with confusion and anger. "What do you know, human? You are a primitive creature. Our medicine is centuries beyond yours. Your medicine is advanced, yes. But I have studied alien biology my whole life. I have seen patterns like this before. On Earth, there are parasites that attack the nervous system. They are very rare, but they exist. This looks similar. Very similar." He explained his theory. The sickness was not caused by a virus or bacteria. It was caused by a microscopic parasite. Something too small for Valori scanners to detect. The parasite lived in the nervous system, feeding on electrical signals. That was why the fever came in waves. That was why the spots followed nerve lines. "If I am right," Do-hyun said, "your medicines are useless because they are designed for viruses. You need something different. You need something that targets the nervous system directly." Do-hyun, the chief physician, laughed at him. "And what would that be? Do you have some human magic that will save us?" "Not magic, science. On Earth, we use certain chemical compounds to treat neural parasites. The chemicals disrupt the parasite's ability to attach to nerve cells. I can try to make something similar using your equipment. But I need access to your laboratory." 1. There was silence. The physicians looked at each other. They looked at the dying children. They looked at this strange human who was either a genius or a madman. "This is ridiculous," the chief physician said. "We cannot trust our children's lives to an animal. My daughter's life." The voice cut through the room like a blade. Everyone turned and fell to their knees. Queen Nara stood in the doorway, her face as cold as stone but her eyes burning with something Do-hyun had never seen before. Fear. A mother's fear. "You claim you can save my daughter, human?" Do-hyun looked at her without flinching. "I believe I can, Your Majesty. But I need to act quickly. Every hour matters." The queen studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Give him whatever he needs." Do-hyun worked for 18 hours straight. He tested samples, studied data, mixed compounds. The Valori equipment was strange, but the principles were the same. Science was science, no matter what planet you came from. He made mistakes. He failed. He tried again. Finally, as the ship's artificial sun began to rise, he held a small vial of blue liquid in his trembling hands. He did not know if it would work. He did not know if it would kill them all. But he had no choice. They gave the treatment to the sickest child first. For 1 hour, nothing happened. Then 2. Then 3. And then, slowly, the fever began to break. The purple spots began to fade. The child opened her eyes and asked for water. By the end of the day, every sick child was recovering. Every single one. Queen Nara summoned Do-hyun to her throne room. He expected anger, or maybe grudging thanks. Instead, she simply looked at him with those dark, unreadable eyes. "You saved my daughter's life." "Yes, Your Majesty." "Why?" You are a slave. You owe us nothing. You have every reason to hate us. Do-hyun thought about the question. He thought about Yuna's smile, about her endless questions, about the way she called him Appa and brought him fruit. She is my friend, he said simply. That is all the reason I need. The queen said nothing for a long moment. Then she reached up and touched her own neck. Remove his collar, she commanded. Move him to better quarters. He is no longer a slave. Do-hyun bowed low, but inside, his heart was singing. He was still a prisoner. He was still far from home. But for the first time, he had hope, and somewhere in the medical wing, a little princess was waking up, asking for her Do-hyun Appa, smiling when she heard he had saved her life. Life changed for Do-hyun after he saved the children. He was no longer a slave, cleaning cages in the nursery. He had real quarters now, a small room with a soft bed and a window that looked out at the stars. He was allowed to eat proper food, walk freely through certain parts of the ship, and most importantly, spend time with Princess Yuna without hiding. But not everyone was happy about his new status. Commander Taeho was one of the highest-ranking military officers in the Valori Empire. He had served Queen Nara's family for generations, protecting them from enemies both foreign and domestic. He was tall even for a Valori, with wings scarred from countless battles and eyes that missed nothing. He had killed thousands of enemies without mercy. He believed, with every fiber of his being, that the Valori were the greatest species in the universe, and all others existed only to serve them. The sight of a human walking free on the royal ship made him sick. This is wrong, he said to his fellow officers. That creature should be in chains, not dining in the halls of the queen. He is polluting our children with his primitive ideas. He is corrupting the princess. The other officers nodded in agreement. They had all seen how Princess Yuna followed the human around, how she laughed at his stories, how she called him by a human name. It was unnatural. It was dangerous. It had to stop. Taeho began his campaign slowly. He did not dare confront the queen directly. Not yet. Instead, he started spreading rumors through the court. He whispered that the human had not really cured the children at all. He suggested that Do-hyun had actually created the disease himself, released it to make himself look like a hero. There was no proof, of course. But the Valori nobles were proud and suspicious. They did not need proof to believe the worst about an inferior species. Think about it, Taeho said to anyone who would listen. How did this human, this primitive creature, know how to cure a disease that our greatest physicians could not? How did he know the exact treatment? Unless he knew about the disease beforehand. Unless he planned it all. The rumors spread like poison. Soon, even servants who had once been friendly to Do-hyun began to look at him with suspicion. Guards followed him wherever he went. His food was tested for poison before he was allowed to eat it, as if he was the one who could not be trusted. Do-hyun knew what was happening. He could feel the walls closing in around him. But there was nothing he could do. He had no allies, no power, no way to defend himself against accusations that were impossible to disprove. Yuna noticed the change immediately. "Why does everyone look at you like that?" she asked one day, her small face wrinkled with confusion. "Why do they whisper when you walk past? Why?" Do-hyun did not want to worry her. "Some people do not trust me because I am human. They think I do not belong here. Grammary. Do-hyun did not belong here. That is stupid," Yuna declared. "You belong here because I say you belong here. When I am queen, I will make a law. Anyone who is mean to you will be thrown into space." Despite everything, Do-hyun laughed. "That seems a little harsh. You are right. They can stay inside, but they have to apologize. A big apology. In front of everyone. That sounds more reasonable." Yuna nodded firmly, satisfied with her royal decree. Then, her expression grew more serious. "Do-hyun Appa, you will not leave me. Will you? No matter what anyone says?" He looked at her, This strange little princess who had become the most important person in his life. I will never leave you, Yuna. I promise. It was a promise he meant to keep. But keeping it was becoming harder every day. Commander Tejo's campaign grew bolder. He petitioned the Queen directly, requesting an audience to discuss the human problem. Queen Nara, who had seemed willing to tolerate Do-hyun's presence, could not ignore a formal petition from her highest commander. She granted the audience. Do-hyun was not allowed to attend, but he heard about it from servants who listened at doors. Tejo had laid out his case with precision and passion. He argued that Do-hyun was a security risk, a potential spy who might be sending information back to human worlds. He argued that the princess's attachment to the human was dangerous, that it would make her weak and sentimental, unfit to rule. He argued that the other noble houses were growing restless, that they saw the Queen's tolerance of the human as a sign of weakness. Your Majesty, Tejo had said, I have served your family for longer than this human has been alive. I have never questioned your judgment, but I question it now. This creature will destroy everything we have built. He must be removed. The Queen had listened in silence. When Tejo finished, she had simply nodded and dismissed him without giving an answer. But Do-hyun knew that silence was not a good sign. She was considering it. She was weighing her options. Meanwhile, Yuna remained innocent of the danger growing around them. She continued her lessons in human culture, learning new Korean words every day. She drew pictures of Earth based on Do-hyun's descriptions, imagining oceans and mountains and dogs. She talked constantly about the future, about what she would do when she was queen. You will be my royal advisor, she told him one evening, showing him her latest drawing. It showed two figures standing side by side, one small with wings and one tall without. Above them, she had written a Korean word he had taught her. Friend, you will help me make good decisions. You will tell me about humans and Earth and all the other worlds out there. We will explore together. Do-hyun looked at the drawing and felt his heart break a little. This child believed so completely in a future that might never happen. She did not know that powerful people wanted him dead. She did not know that her own mother might sacrifice him to keep the peace. Yuna, he said gently, being a queen is very complicated. Sometimes queens have to make hard decisions. Sometimes they have to do things they do not want to do. I know, Yuna said. Mother tells me that all the time. She says being queen means putting the empire first. Always. She says personal feelings are weaknesses that enemies can use against you. What do you think about that? Yuna was quiet for a moment, thinking hard. Then she shook her head. I think she is wrong. I think feelings make us strong, not weak. When I was sick, I was scared. I wanted to give up. But then I thought about you, and how sad you would be if I died, and I decided to fight. My feelings for you saved my life. She looked up at him with those honey-colored eyes, so young and yet so wise. Feelings are not weaknesses. They are reasons to keep going when everything is hard. That is what you taught me, Do-hyun Oppa. Do-hyun pulled her into a hug, not caring who might see. You are going to be an amazing queen someday. Yuna. The best queen the Valori have ever had. Only if you help me, she whispered. You have to promise to help me. I promise. But even as he said the words, he wondered how long he would be able to keep that promise. Commander Tejo was growing more aggressive. More noble houses were joining his cause. The queen's silence was stretching longer and longer. The storm was coming. Do-hyun could feel it in his bones. He just did not know how bad it would be. The summons came in the middle of the night. 2 royal guards appeared at Do-hyun's door, their faces hard and unreadable. They said nothing, only gestured for him to follow. He did not resist. He knew this moment had been coming for weeks. They led him through empty corridors, past sleeping chambers and silent halls, to a part of the ship he had never seen before. The Queen's private quarters, The guard stopped at a door, made of dark metal, and stepped aside. The door opened on its own, revealing a room lit only by starlight streaming through a massive window. Queen Nara stood with her back to him, looking out at the endless darkness of space. She did not turn around when he entered. "Human," she said. Her voice was as cold as always, but something in it seemed tired, worn. "Do you know why I have summoned you?" Do-hyun's heart was pounding, but he kept his voice steady. "I believe so, Your Majesty. Commander Taeho has been quite persistent. He has convinced 7 of the 12 noble houses that you are a threat to the Empire. He has collected thousands of signatures demanding your execution. There are whispers of rebellion if I do not act." She finally turned to face him. In the starlight, her face looked older somehow. The crown on her head seemed heavier than before. "I have ruled for 40 years. In that time, I have made many difficult decisions. I have sacrificed much for the good of my people. I have learned that a queen cannot afford to be sentimental. She cannot let personal feelings interfere with duty." Do-hyun said nothing. There was nothing to say. "My daughter loves you," the queen continued. "I have watched her these past months. She has never been so happy. She laughs more. She studies harder. She speaks of the future with excitement instead of fear. You have given her something I could never give her. Hope, joy, a friend." For one moment, Do-hyun thought he saw something in her eyes. Something soft, almost warm. But then, it was gone, replaced by that familiar coldness. "But I am not just a mother. I am a queen. And a queen must think of her people first. Always. Your presence destabilizes my court. It threatens the unity of the Empire. If I keep you here, there will be war. Valori will fight Valori. Thousands will die. My daughter's throne will be weakened before she ever has a chance to sit on it." She moved to a table and picked up a small device. "I am releasing you. A shuttle has been prepared. It will take you to the edge of our territory, close enough to human space that your people might find you. You will have food, water, and enough fuel to survive the journey." Do-hyun stared at her, barely able to believe what he was hearing. He was not going to die. He was going home. After months of captivity, he was finally going home. But even as hope flooded through him, a different feeling rose up. Something sharp and painful. "What about Yuna?" The queen's expression hardened. "You will not say goodbye to her. You will leave tonight. Now. Before she wakes. A clean break is best. Children are resilient. She will forget you within a season." "She will not forget me," Do-hyun said, his voice rising despite his fear. "She is not like other children. She feels everything deeply. If I disappear without a word, it will break her heart. Her heart will heal. Hearts always do. With respect, Your Majesty." "That is not true. I know about loss. I know about being abandoned by people you love. It does not heal. It stays with you forever. It changes who you are." The queen's eyes flashed with anger. "You dare lecture me about my own daughter?" "I dare because I love her." The words burst out before Do-hyun could stop them. "I love her like she was my own sister. I would die for her without hesitation. And I know that if I leave like this, if I vanish like a ghost in the night, she will spend the rest of her life wondering why. Was it something she did? Was she not good enough? Those questions will poison her. They will make her cold and hard and afraid to love anyone ever again. Is that the queen you want her to become?" Silence filled the room. The queen stared at him with an expression he could not read. For a long moment, Do-hyun was sure she would order his execution, right there. Then she spoke, and her voice was barely a whisper. "You truly love her." "Yes, and yet you would leave her, if I commanded it. You would break your own heart to save her from war and death." Do-hyun felt tears building in his eyes. "Yes, If that is what is best for her, if that is what will keep her safe, then yes, I will go. The queen turned back to the window. When she spoke again, her voice was different. Softer, somehow. More human. I was not always cold. When my husband was alive, I was different. I laughed. I dreamed. I believed that love could conquer anything, but he died. And I learned the truth. Love is a weakness. It gives your enemies something to use against you. It makes you vulnerable. Love is a weakness. It makes you vulnerable. Love is a weakness. Love is a weakness. She touched the glass with one hand. I swore I would never be vulnerable again. I built walls around my heart so high that nothing could reach me. Not even my own daughter. I thought I was protecting her by teaching her to be like me. She turned to face Do-hyun one last time. But watching her with you, I realized something. She is stronger than me. Not despite her love, but because of it. She feels everything, and it does not break her. It makes her brave. She pressed the device into his hand. Go. The shuttle is in Bay 7. You have 1 hour before departure. Do-hyun looked at the device. Then, at the queen. And Yuna, I will tell her myself. After you are gone, I will tell her that you had to leave to protect your own people. That you wanted to say goodbye. But there was no time. It is not the whole truth. But it is not a lie either. Perhaps it will be enough. It was the best he could hope for. Do-hyun bowed low. Thank you, Your Majesty, for everything. He turned to leave, but her voice stopped him at the door. Human. Do-hyun. It was the first time she had ever used his name. Take care of yourself. If my daughter ever finds out I let you die, she will never forgive me. Despite everything, Do-hyun smiled. If I ever find a way back, Your Majesty, I will come. I promise. Do not make promises you cannot keep. I never do. The guards led him to Bay 7. The shuttle was small but sturdy, filled with supplies and equipped with basic navigation systems. He climbed aboard and settled into the pilot's seat. Through the viewport, he could see the massive ship stretching out in all directions. Somewhere inside, a little princess was sleeping, dreaming innocent dreams, not knowing that her world was about to shatter. Do-hyun wiped his eyes and started the engines. As the shuttle lifted off and glided toward the void, he looked back at the ship one last time. And there, in a window high above the shuttle bay, he saw a small figure, a child, pressing her hands against the glass, watching him leave. Yuna. She had woken up. She had seen him. Their eyes met across the impossible distance. Do-hyun raised his hand in farewell. And then, the shuttle shot forward, and the window disappeared. And she was gone. He was going home, but home had never felt so far away. The shuttle moved through space like a small fish swimming through an endless ocean. Do-hyun sat alone in the pilot's seat, watching the stars drift past. The Valori ship had already disappeared behind him, swallowed by the darkness. There was nothing around him now, but empty void. He should have felt relieved. He was free. After months of captivity, he was finally going home. He would see Earth again. He would see his family, his friends, his world. He had survived the impossible, but all he could think about was Yuna. He kept seeing her face in that window. Those honey-colored eyes, wide with shock and confusion. Those small hands pressed against the glass. She had woken up somehow. She had found out he was leaving. She had watched him go without even a wave goodbye. What was she feeling right now? Was she crying? Was she angry? Was she asking her mother why her friend had abandoned her in the middle of the night like a coward? Do-hyun wiped his face. He had not realized he was crying again. The tears just kept coming, no matter how many times he pushed them away. He felt empty inside, hollow, like someone had reached into his chest and pulled out everything that mattered. The shuttle's navigation system beeped softly, telling him he was on course for human space. In 3 weeks, if everything went well, he would reach the edge of the territory where human ships patrolled. Someone would find him. Someone would take him home. 3 weeks. It felt like a lifetime. He closed his eyes and tried to sleep. But every time he drifted off, he dreamed of Yuna. He dreamed of her stories, and her laughter, and her endless questions. He dreamed of the way she said his name, with that strange accent that made it sound like music. He dreamed of the future she had planned for them, a future that would never happen now. Hours passed, maybe days. Time lost all meaning in the darkness between stars. Do-hyun ate when he remembered to eat, slept when his body forced him to sleep, and spent the rest of his time staring at nothing. Then, the alarm went off. Do-hyun jerked awake, his heart racing. Warning lights flashed across the control panel. Something was approaching. Something fast. He pulled up the sensor display and felt his blood turn to ice. A ship was coming up behind him, moving at incredible speed. It was small, much smaller than the Queen's vessel, but it was definitely Valori. He could see the distinctive shape of the wings, the shimmer of the hull. They had sent someone after him. They had changed their minds. They were going to bring him back, or kill him. Do-hyun pushed the engines to maximum power, but he knew it was pointless. His shuttle was built for survival, not speed. The Valori ship was gaining on him with every second. There was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. He watched the ship grow larger in his display. Soon he could see it through the viewport, a bright point of light that became a shape, that became a vessel, pulling alongside him. It was a royal craft, sleek and elegant, designed for members of the ruling family. His communication system crackled to life, and then he heard a voice that made his heart stop completely. Do-hyun oppa. It was Yuna. Her voice was high and broken, filled with tears and desperation. Through the viewport, he could see her in the cockpit of the other ship. She was alone. Her small hands were gripping the controls, barely able to reach them. She was flying a spacecraft by herself, a child who could not possibly know how to pilot such a machine. Do-hyun oppa. Don't go. Please don't leave me. Do-hyun could not breathe. Yuna? What are you doing? How did you... Jew? I saw you leave. I went to your room and you were gone. And I saw the shuttle flying away. And I knew. I knew they were making you leave. She was crying so hard she could barely speak. I stole a ship. I don't really know how to fly it. The computer is helping me. But I had to find you. I had to stop you. Yuna, you have to go back. Your mother will be so worried. This is dangerous. You could have been killed. I don't care. She screamed. The sound of it broke something inside him. I don't care about danger. I don't care about being a princess, or a queen, or anything. I just want you to stay. Please, please don't leave me alone. Do-hyun's hands were shaking on his own controls. He could see her through the viewport now, really see her. Her face was wet with tears. Her wings were trembling. She looked so small, so young, so completely lost. She had stolen a ship. She had chased him across the void. She had risked everything, her safety, her future, her mother's fury, all because she could not bear to let him go. This little girl, this strange alien princess, loved him that much. What was he supposed to do? The logical choice was to keep flying. The safe choice. The choice that protected both of them from the consequences of this impossible situation. If he turned back now, everything would be worse. The Queen would be furious. Commander Taeho would use this as proof that Do-hyun had corrupted the princess. There would be no second chance. No mercy. But if he kept flying, Yuna would chase him until her ship ran out of fuel. She would drift alone in the darkness, a child lost in the infinite void, all because he chose his own freedom over her. He could not do it. He could not leave her. Yuna, he said softly into the communicator. Listen to me carefully. I need you to slow down. Can you do that? Caster. 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 Only if you stop first, she said stubbornly. Promise you will stop. Do-hyun closed his eyes. He thought about Earth. So far away. He thought about his family, waiting for him. He thought about everything he was giving up. Then he thought about honey-colored eyes and a drawing of two friends standing together under the stars. I promise, he said. I am stopping now. He cut his engines. The shuttle slowed, then drifted to a halt. A moment later, Yuna's ship pulled up beside him, close enough that he could see her through the window. She was smiling through her tears, laughing and crying at the same time. You stopped. You really stopped. I stopped. But Yuna, we cannot stay here. Your mother's ships will be coming soon. We need to go back. I know, she said. I don't care. As long as you come back with me. As long as you don't leave me again. Do-hyun looked at her. This brave, foolish, wonderful child who had crossed the stars to find him. He had never loved anyone more in his entire life. I will come back with you, he said. I don't know what will happen. Your mother might punish me. Commander Taeho might finally get his wish. But I will face it. We will face it together. Yuna pressed her hand against her window. Even across the space between their ships, he could feel the warmth of it. Together, she agreed. Always together. Behind them, lights appeared in the distance. The Queen's warships, coming to find them. Do-hyun took a deep breath and began to turn his shuttle around. Whatever came next, he would not run from it. He had made a promise to a little girl, and he intended to keep it, no matter what. The warships surrounded them within minutes. There were 5 of them, massive vessels bristling with weapons, their lights cutting through the darkness like angry eyes. Do-hyun and Yuna were escorted back to the Queen's ship in silence, their tiny crafts dwarfed by the military might of the Valori Empire. Do-hyun expected to be thrown in chains the moment he landed. Instead, guards simply led him through the corridors, their faces grim but not cruel. Yuna walked beside him, her small hand gripping his tightly. She had refused to let go since they docked, and no one had dared to separate them. They were brought to the throne room. It was packed with people, more than Do-hyun had ever seen in one place on this ship. Noble families in their finest clothes, military officers in gleaming armor, servants and advisors and courtiers of every rank. They had all come to witness whatever was about to happen. At the far end of the room, Queen Nara sat on her crystal throne. Her face was completely still, revealing nothing. Commander Taeho stood at her right hand, barely hiding his satisfaction. This was the moment he had been waiting for. Bring them forward, the Queen commanded. The guards pushed Do-hyun and Yuna through the crowd until they stood at the base of the throne. Whispers filled the air like buzzing insects. Everyone was staring at them. The human and the princess, standing hand in hand like equals. Commander Taeho stepped forward, unable to contain himself any longer. Your Majesty, the evidence is clear. This human has corrupted the crown princess. He has turned her against her own people. She stole a royal vessel. She endangered her own life. All because of his influence. I demand justice. I demand his execution. The crowd murmured in agreement. Do-hyun could feel the hatred in the room, thick and heavy, pressing against him from all sides. He was going to die here, in front of all these people. He had known it was a possibility from the moment he stopped his shuttle. But he did not regret it. At least Yuna was safe. At least she would not be alone in the void. Queen Nara raised one hand, and the room fell silent. Commander Taeho, she said slowly. You speak of corruption. Tell me, what exactly has the human corrupted my daughter with? Taeho seemed confused by the question. With human ideas, Your Majesty. Weakness, sentiment, Attachment to inferior beings. I see. And what did my daughter do with these corrupted ideas? She stole a ship. She chased after the human like a lovesick pet. She disobeyed your direct orders. Yes, the queen agreed. She did all of those things. She broke rules. She defied authority. She risked everything for someone she cared about. Her eyes moved from Taeho to Do-hyun to Yuna. Tell me, Commander, how old is my daughter? She is 6 cycles old, Your Majesty. 6 cycles old. A child. And yet she flew a ship across the void. Alone. At night. To chase after someone she loved. Have you ever done anything so brave? Commander? Taeho's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. In 10,000 years of Valori history, the queen continued, her voice rising. No child has ever done what my daughter did tonight. No adult has done it either. Our people are proud and powerful, but we do not chase after others. We do not risk ourselves for love. We calculate. We strategize. We protect our own interests. Above all else. She stood from her throne and descended the steps, her wings spreading wide behind her. The crowd drew back in fear and awe. A queen did not leave her throne. A queen did not walk among commoners. But Queen Nara was beyond such rules now. She stopped in front of Do-hyun and Yuna, looking down at them with those ancient, unreadable eyes. I have watched my daughter these past months. I have seen her change in ways I never expected. She has become curious, creative, compassionate. She has learned to think beyond herself, to care about others, to dream of a better future. These are not weaknesses, as I once believed. These are the qualities of a great ruler. She turned to face the crowd. And who taught her these things? Not me. I was too busy being cold and strong and untouchable. I was too busy being queen to be a mother. No. It was this human, this primitive creature from a primitive world. He saw my daughter when no one else did. He loved her when no one else would. She looked at Commander Taeho, and her voice became ice. You call that corruption? I call it a miracle, Taeho sputtered in rage. Your Majesty, the noble houses will not accept this. There will be rebellion. War. Let them rebel, the queen said calmly. Let them try to take my throne. They will learn what I learned tonight. That love is not weakness. Love is the greatest strength of all. My daughter proved that when she crossed the stars for her friend. If my nobles cannot understand that lesson. She turned back to Do-hyun, and, for the first time since he had known her, she smiled. It was a small smile, barely visible, but it was real, human. Park Do-hyun. You have done something no one in history has ever done. You have made my daughter brave. You have made her love. You have made her a better person than I ever could. She reached up and removed something from her own neck, a small pendant on a golden chain. It glowed with inner light, marking it as a symbol of royal authority. I hereby name you ambassador to the Valori Empire. You will represent your people in our court. You will advise my daughter. You will help her become the queen she is meant to be. She placed the pendant around his neck. You are no longer a prisoner, no longer a guest. You are one of us now. The crowd erupted in chaos. Some cheered, some screamed in protest, some simply stared in disbelief. Commander Taeho looked like he was about to collapse, but Do-hyun barely heard any of it. He was looking at Yuna, who was looking up at him with the biggest smile he had ever seen. I told you, she said proudly. I told you I would make you important. Yes, he agreed, his voice thick with emotion. She threw her arms around him, and he lifted her up, holding her close. Around them, the Valori Empire was changing forever. The old ways were crumbling. A new future was being born. And at the center of it all was a little girl who had refused to let her friend go. Years later, people would ask Do-hyun how humans, a primitive species from a tiny planet, had formed an alliance with the most powerful empire in the galaxy. They would expect stories of great battles and clever negotiations, of brilliant strategies and political masterstrokes. But the truth was simpler than that. The truth was a little girl in a window, watching her friend fly away. The truth was a stolen ship and a desperate chase across the stars. The truth was a promise made and kept, a hand held and never released, a love that crossed the impossible distance between worlds. The truth was that humanity's greatest strength was never technology or weapons or power. It was the ability to love, to connect, to make others feel seen and valued and important. Yuna had understood that from the very beginning, and because of her, the whole universe would learn it too. On the day of Crown Princess Yuna's coronation, many years in the future, she stood before her people with Ambassador Park Do-hyun at her side. She was no longer a child but a young woman, strong and wise and kind. The empire stretched out before her, waiting to see what kind of queen she would be. She turned to Do-hyun and smiled, the same smile she had given him in the nursery all those years ago. "Ready?" she asked in Korean. "Ready," he answered. Together, they stepped forward into the light, and the future had never looked brighter.